Thanks for staying with us. I feel like I'm bringing you such bad news this evening, but hopefully a solution will come out of all of this. The country's economic situation keeps worsening as continuous fuel price hikes impact prices across the board. South Africans now cough up an average of 24 rand a litre. Are global factors to blame? How exactly did we get to this price? What challenges are faced by fuel retailers? Let's discuss this now with the CEO of the Fuel Retailers Association, Reggie Sibiya. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Sibiya. As I mentioned in my introduction, I've just been giving bad news the whole evening, but the petrol price is really out of control, and it seems as though it's only going to get worse. How worse can it actually get?
Good evening, Heidi. Look, unfortunately, with us being a net importer and reliant on, imports, we are actually going to be affected, in particular if one looks at the current situation, with Russia and Ukraine. So there are many factors that actually impact on these oil prices. As you know, we just came out of the COVID-19, where, OPEC, which is the oil-producing countries, had to cut significantly their productions. And when that was just starting to open up, and obviously OPEC had to actually make up for the loss of billions of dollars during COVID-19. And now with this Russia and Ukraine and the European markets obviously spiking the demand, it's again then a question of, price and demand from OPEC. And one has got to be realistic that, OPEC is still trying to recoup, the lost profit mainly from the 2020 and 2021 period. And obviously now with the demand that is increasing because of cut in production in Russia, they also actually taking opportunity on that. So it is definitely not going to be good news for us.
I want us to speak about government's role in all of this, because many would say that the fuel levy is not helping the situation at all. And many would say that government should have room and capacity to perhaps drop that fuel levy or take it away completely because of what's happening globally and how that's impacting the fuel price.
Yes, and maybe before I say that, I do have an area of conflict, of course, representing retailers as well. But let me first just put that into perspective. That if you look, for example, at the current price of 23.94 per litre on the ULP 93, of that, only 2.28 cents per litre accrues or is allocated towards the retailer margin. And this is the least understood margin of all of them. For example, of that 228, 64 cents goes back to those people who own the land and the equipment in the form of a rental. And all that the retailer is left with is 1.33 cents per litre to cover expenses. And then there's 31 cents a litre, which is allocated for profit before tax. So as much as people would say, well, I've got a conflicting interest, one is to put that into perspective. On the other hand, if you look at the allocation on taxes, on the current ULP 93 price, for example, they amount to 5.18 cents per litre. That is taking out the 1.50 relief. And that means that taxes and levies and duties contributes 22% to the current price. And then the total cost of importing a litre of ULP 93 is sitting at 14.84 cents a litre. That makes about 62% of the total ULP price. So if one were to look at what goes to government taxes, levies, and tariffs, and the international oil prices, that is 86% of the total price. So you can clearly see there, Heidi, that 62% is a great influence from the global prices, as you asked earlier on, which are influenced by the Russia-Ukraine war and also the recovery from COVID-19.
Just lastly, Mr. Sibiya, and briefly if you can, South Africans are saying possibly in the next month or so they're going to have to pay about 25 rand, if not more, for a litre of petrol. And it just seems as though the situation could possibly get worse. We had a panel discussion earlier about the cost of living, and there are concerns that we are heading for a global recession, which could mean that those global factors that impact our fuel price are going to be even worse. How much worse can it actually get for us? I'm just hoping I don't have to pay 30 rand a litre for petrol.
Well, we hope so too, that it won't go that far, and that there will be some resolve on the Russia-Ukraine warfare. And this cry that motorists have is exactly the same cry that we have, actually, as the retailers, because as the prices of fuel go up, our costs also go up against a very fixed margin of 228 cents a litre. That is why we are also gathering, on the 8th and 9th of June, as the industry stakeholders under the FRA conference to really deliberate on these issues. We'll be talking about the changing landscape. What does it mean for the consumer? What does it mean for small businesses? What does it mean for jobs? And we all trying to find answers, and we need to look at alternatives. So that's why we are actually calling for this conference, which will be taking place on the 8th and 9th of June in Nazareth, to really look at options, what can be done in the area of taxes. If you look at other countries, even the neighboring countries that are supplied by South Africa, they are actually selling fuel cheaper than us, which then talks to the issue of taxes. And there's been a big debate on the issue of the road accident fund. And we as FRA feel that it actually should be slashed out completely of the fuel price to give relief to the motorists.
Certainly, there are a lot of factors at play, and hopefully there can be some solution, because this is affecting everybody in almost every aspect of the cost of living. Thank you so much for your time. That's the CEO of the Fuel Retailers Association, Reggie Sibiya. Thank you so much for your time this evening.